news and notes to the coaches and players for America's team, let us go inside the stars on 105.3 The Fan.
Okay, let's try to update you on all the chaos here on DFW Sports Station, your home of the Dallas Cowboys, with Shan, RJ Choppy, Cowboys insider Bobby Belt.
Dummy.
Yes.
I'm dummy.
Yeah. Now you know what it's like to be in the prime time. You actually have a commercial to read. You can't even keep track of it. The Cowboys are scheduled to speak with Kellen Moore today, according to Todd Archer. The interview, going to be done virtually, cannot last more than 3 hours. Albert Breer says Kellen also has an interview with Jacksonville today and the Saints tomorrow. Robert Saleh interview tomorrow for the Cowboys. Leslie Frazier on Monday. Brian Broaddus says Mike Zimmer would take the Cowboys' head coaching job if offered. Yesterday, Ed Werder blew up crosstalk by saying Deion Sanders would take the Cowboy job, and Jerry Jones is enamored with the idea. Werder then went on the Dan Patrick Show for more.
Everything I continue to be told, Dan, is that Jerry is interested. It was described to me as he's enamored with the idea. Obviously, it's hard to imagine any coaching candidate who could create more interest, someone that Jerry could more sell to the fan base here, which needs to happen, and make Jerry more money than Deion Sanders. I mean, he won a Super Bowl here as a player. So there are also people around Deion who tell me that he's being urged by his supporters in Colorado to take the job, and that they believe if Jerry ever does offer him the job, that he will take it, that he has an extension to remain at Colorado on his desk that he hasn't even looked at as he considers these other possibilities. But, you know, I mean, there are also people close to Deion who tell me they don't see it happening, but they've seen things happen with Jerry Jones that they didn't expect to happen before.
So James Slater had a very interesting Colorado note yesterday.
Colorado?
Two people with knowledge of the situation tells me Deion approached the Colorado AD on Tuesday about additional money for NIL and his staff. He was met with resistance. The university would neither confirm nor deny. When I reached out, Deion did not respond when reached multiple times for comment. Tolo Ernesto hit me up on DM, and he's like, well, there's a couple Tolo thoughts. Number one, the plan is right in front of our very eyes. BL Boyd has been lighting up our emails. Tolo BL. He said, look, it's going to be Kellen Moore with succession plan Jason Witten. The succession plan was someone older than Kellen. But I understand why many think that. And then Ernesto said Deion knows he can't win big at Colorado anymore. That's why Deion wants this more than Jerry wants this.
He knows he's losing 2 top 5 picks.
Yeah.
You know, it's now I will say this. Did he not get the number 1 quarterback recruit or the number 2, Julian?
He got one. He got one of the top 2 or 3, depending on the outlet.
That's what this is about. You find a quarterback, right? And so he did a great job getting him. Colorado 4 days ago ditched their NIL. They canceled it. Okay?
What?
So they canceled their NIL collective. So it's a growing trend. They're canceling the collective.
What does that mean?
So the collective is like, what they're going to do is they're preparing to pay you directly now. The NIL collective is, so like the University of Texas has their NIL club. Let's just call it the Longhorn Collective. I don't know what it's called, right? But that collective finds you sponsorships and pays you that way. It's a workaround. Now what they're doing, because of the Supreme Court stuff, they are now allowed to just pay you directly. They're just going to pay you directly. They're canceling the collective. So that is it's a way to make it more efficient and streamline it. So maybe this is a good sign for Deion to stay there that they're doing that.
Okay. Vegas odds on the Cowboy coach. It's updated every day. Deion is 1 at plus 150. Jason Witten at plus 175. Kellen Moore at plus 220.
I'm not moving off of Kellen. I forget what somebody just sent me a screenshot going, say it ain't so, Bob, because they were sending me a tweet of somebody saying the only person in the world who wants Kellen Moore is Bobby Belt. It's not just like take what I would want out of it. The likeliest scenario is Kellen. That's
absolutely is.
That's where we're heading at this point. And I'll tell you what, 720 with Nate Newton. I keep going with the ebbs and flows. My Dion likelihood meter went down hearing Nate talk about it.
Explain why.
Because Nate said he was over at Dion's place a couple days ago. They were going for a walk. And during a 20-minute walk, all he could do was talk about Colorado and what he wants to accomplish in Colorado.
Never brought up the Cowboys.
If that is not genuine, like he's interested in Colorado, that is the biggest chestnut checkers psychological move I've ever heard in my life.
Unless Nate, and you guys know him much better than me personally, unless Nate is not going to put all Dion's business out there.
Now he might. Now he told me on the phone, like, privately, like he exactly what he said in the air. I could see Dion just wanting to stay quiet with it. I could absolutely see that. But Nate's one of his boys. You tell your boys things.
They're close.
I am calling cap on one thing there. I've known Nate a long time. Nate's memory is going. Okay? And I'll tell you why. He said he went on a 1.5-mile walk in 20 minutes. There ain't no way in hell with those knees.
I know.
He is walking a 1.5 miles in 20 minutes.
Look, it may have felt like a 1.5 miles is what he meant. or it could be that his time thing. But no, Nate does a lot of walking.
Knees don't like him.
He's got new knees.
Yeah, that's true.
He got new knees. They're fresh. They're brand new, man.
Someone yesterday, right after the show that I trust, told me Deion Sanders ain't ever happening here because of Stephen Jones. And I was like, oh. And all I got out of this individual was, Stephen, not the biggest fan. And my Deion likelihood meter now has dropped big time.
Let's go off of the names that you just...
Well, let me throw in a new name, because I haven't seen anyone else with this. Thanks to Tolo, who sent me Calvin Watkins, who we all really like on this show. Calvin said Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson expected to get Cowboy interviews. I haven't seen anyone else with that.
Good.
I've seen nothing else connecting Ben Johnson to the Cowboys. And Jordan Schultz, who broke the Dion Jerry story, says Mike McCarthy, along with Ben Johnson, are the finalists in Chicago. That's everything catching you up with all the rumors.
And I'll throw two more names really quickly that Jory mentioned in passing the other day that she thinks could be involved, either on the head coaching interview cycle or could get looks as coordinators here potentially. Brian Johnson, the quarterbacks coach there in Washington, who had been in Philadelphia previously as offensive coordinator. That's an important name to know because that was Dak's quarterbacks coach at Mississippi State, who Dak is really close with. And then the other is Anthony Lynn, who's on staff with Washington.
What's he been doing?
He's been on staff with Washington, run game coordinator. So he'd obviously been a Chargers head coach, and he loves Jerry. Anthony Lynn does. They're very good. Anthony Lynn, his year he was here in Dallas, he had gotten hit in a car accident, and Jerry was really, really good to him, and he's never forgotten that.
Were you about to say something?
No.
Okay, I thought you and Bobby were battling over starting off right there. Mike McCarthy, finalists in Chicago with Ben Johnson. Aaron Rodgers, loving himself. Some Mike McCarthy talking about the Cowboys situation on McAfee.
Hell of a ball coach. What he did this year with the amount of injuries that they had, I thought was amazing. Hearing the guys talk about him, I wasn't surprised, just because anybody that plays for Mike and gets to know him a little bit and get to feel that great big heart that he's got, it's special. It was interesting because anybody that knows the business, and Chuck, you know this better than anybody, most of the time coaches have an extra year on their deal, right? So it gives you that buffer. If you get released, you have a year to kind of not have to rush back in there. All these guys, and maybe you can speak more on this, Chuck. I'd be interested in what the mindset is, and maybe if this has ever happened to you. But I think most of the coaches on the staff went into the season without another year on their deal. They're in the last year of their deal. That's a freaking tough way to go about doing it with no guarantees afterwards.
That's part one. So Chuck Pagano, former Colts coach, is on that set, and he and Rodgers were going back and forth about, and RJ, you were real big on this, that Mike should have been given an extra year or some extra time heading into this season. Rodgers and Pagano continue to talk about what McCarthy had to deal with.
It's when most of the staff and the head coach and the coordinators don't have, that to me was like, I would think there's talk about having zero confidence you're going to be back. Like,
to your point about Big Mike and the job that he did, to go in there and then shut the doors and say, okay, none of us, including myself, we don't have guarantees. We don't have that extra year, but you know what? We signed the contracts. We got the name on the back of our jersey, the decal on the side of our helmet, and by God, hey, look, this ain't going to be a distraction. We're not going to talk about this. We're going to prepare. We're going to coach. We're going to put the time in, and we'll show them.
I thought that, I understand the optics of what it would have been to give him an extra year.
It would have been insane. It would have been nuts.
But I do believe that it's something that you really should have done for the ability to coach. Now, it proved that he didn't really need it because, they didn't quit on it. They did listen. They did play for him, so like that was never a problem. They were outmatched. Outmanned for a lot of the season.
To be fair, I had not heard anybody bring up the point that Aaron Rodgers just did, though.
About the assistants?
The idea being of just typically, if you get blown out, you've got financial security for a year. You don't have to get back in it, and you can methodically figure out your path back to the NFL. So that angle of it, forgetting just our players quitting on you because you're a lame duck head coach, it's more how can that distract coaches themselves?
I want everybody's updated Cowboy pick for yourself, and then the percentage on who's going to get it. I want who you want and percentage on who it's going to be.
We'll
save
it's going to be Kellen Moore.
It's going to be Kellen Moore.
It's going to be Kellen Moore.
All right. What percent? Give me that percent and the Dion percent.
75% Kellen Moore.
Okay.
So Dion percent would be way lower. I would say, 15% Dion. Right. I really would. I would love to see Witten get it. I know it was such. I think it would just be like, that's, I think, who Jerry, if you had to tie him down and say, who do you really want to have this job?
Yeah.
Like, if you had to pick, money wasn't an issue, experience wasn't an issue, he would say Jason Witten.
75% Kellen Moore gets the job. That's where I'm at right now, and he's leading the clubhouse. The guy I'd want, Kellen's good, but I would probably want John Gruden. I like the idea of Gruden coming in here because I like the in terms of, if you talk about culture and building things up and being an offensive mind, I think it's a good fit.
You know what you've taught me this week?
What's that?
You know nothing about leadership.
Thank you.
That's what you've taught me. That's what I've learned from you. You know nothing about it. Pepe.
Why is that?
The whole week. All someone has to do is have the Odyssey app or listen to the radio. You've proved it.
I want
John
Dion.
Gruden.
I want Dion, Sean. I really do. But you guys, Bobby and RJ, have sold me on Kellen. I think it's 60% right now Kellen, 30% Dion, then 10% the other. I still think Dion's a name in the mix, but
I think it's 90% Kellen, and I want Dion. And aside,
you don't know leadership.
Your Dion want is not for a football. It's for everything.
So
it's encompassing everything.
Aside from the selfish radio stuff and the content, the unknown of Dion is intriguing to me. I don't know. I think he's a good leader. He could be an incredible leader. He could make all the guys roll their eyes. I think Dion could work better with Jerry. I don't know. Jerry may be the exact same. I think Dion would create incredible, crazy content and storylines. Dion may also try to quit the Dallas media in 3 weeks out of sensitivity. It is a complete, fascinating unknown to me. I've seen Kellen Moore. I've seen the Garrett Tree. I've seen the Mike McCarthys of the world. And I am in line with many of the Tolos tweeting me, screw it. Screw it. Try something else. Try something different. That's where I stand with it.
Real quick on the Franco injured returns fan text. Aaron Glenn, it's going to be Kellen Moore. Aaron Glenn is the leader we need. Mm-hmm. Bobby just said Kellen and John Gruden shut his mic off. Witten would be crazy. Can't relate to the players. Kellen, but I want Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn. Dion is all bluster. There you go.